Hey everyone, Tom here at Cerulean Bay. This is just a quick intro to an awesome conversation that I had with Amanda Falkenberg. She's the creator of the Moons Symphony. And if you're wondering what that might have to do with tropical escapes at home, check out this episode and you'll find out all about it. Amanda was kind enough to give me access to a few of her music files, so I'm going to include 3 music samples. They're just short clips that are anywhere from 90 seconds to 2 minutes long, so that you can experience what her music is about. I'll have one clip here before our conversation, and then I'll have 2 at the end of the show. So stay through the whole thing, check it out. I think you're going to love it. This first clip is inspired by one of Saturn's moons, Enceladus, and then the last 2 clips will be inspired by the moons Miranda and Europa. Thanks. And now let's meet Amanda Falkenberg, the creator of the Moons Symphony. Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Tom at Tropical Escapes at Home. And we've got a very, very cool episode lined up for you today because we have a wonderful guest who is going to take us on a bit of a journey in an area I never thought we would go. But when you hear what she has to say about her specialty and how she views some elements of our natural world and brings those together in one of the most beautiful ways, I think you're going to love what she has to say. So I've got a bit of info here about my guest I'm going to share. Amanda Lee Falkenberg is an internationally acclaimed composer, pianist, and TEDx speaker who is transforming the way we experience both music and science. She is the creator of the Moons Symphony. It is a groundbreaking orchestral and choral work inspired by NASA missions and developed in close collaboration with astronauts and planetary scientists. Performed by the London Symphony Orchestra and London Voices, the symphony takes audiences on a cinematic journey to the outer solar system, bringing the moons of Jupiter and Saturn and beyond vividly to life through sound. So interesting. I love that. Building on this work, Amanda launched Lunar, which stands for Learning Under New Artistic Regimes, and an educational program that uses the symphony's soundtrack as the gateway to discovery. Through Lunar, she blends planetary science, art, and music into immersive learning adventures that inspire students and audiences worldwide to explore the cosmos while deepening their appreciation of Earth. Amanda's collaborations span NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Caltech, the Planetary Society, and leading observatories, as well as astronauts and space artists. Her mission is to connect humanity to the cosmos through the universal language of music. I absolutely love how Amanda's been able to create such a new and unique perspective within the world of music and connecting that to nature. So without further ado, let's welcome Amanda to the show. Amanda, thank you.
Thank you for having me, Tom. It's so
Oh,
lovely to be here and overlap these passions of ours, the natural world. I think you've said that beautifully.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And as the listeners of my show know, we are based on the tropics, and it's kind of a simple premise that people love tropical vacations. They're either down in South Beach in Miami there, or they're traveling to Hawaii, or doing those bucket list trips here from the US where you're off to places like Fiji or Bali, or even some of those places a lot of Americans don't know about, like the Seychelles and Mauritius and the Maldives. And I try to introduce people to those wonderful places too, in the sense that if you're going to take a long plane trip like to Europe or something like this, go to someplace new, go to someplace different. And then pay attention to while you're there. Pay attention to the details, what you see, what you hear, even what you smell, all of the different sensory aspects, and capture that. Bring it home. Create your own little tropical escape at home, whether it's a corner in a room or it's your a whole room or maybe even your whole house, so that you have a place to retreat to that's authentic. It's not some generic commercialized version of the tropics. It's the real thing based on real artwork and music and food or whatever it is, until you can travel again. So that's basically what I do. And I love, after seeing your profile and what you do about a whole form of music based on a whole different concept of the natural world, because it is the natural world. So why don't you go ahead and kick off telling us your background and what drew you to the planets of our outer solar system, or the moons of our outer solar system?
Absolutely. Incredible. Well, I guess just a quick overview. I started playing the piano when I was 2.5 years old, and I only started composing in my early 20s. And I started off in the ballet studios, watching dancers and then crafting music to capture the essence of their movement. And then that led to film composing, and something that I had spent the last 30 years involved with. And I've always been fascinated with astronomy. I've had no formal training in it whatsoever. I've been too busy being a concert pianist and a composer and a film composer. And I literally stumbled across an article that mentioned the 10 weirdest moons of our outer solar system. And I'm an absolute full moon lover. I'll always be celebrating full moons. And so I was in the middle of writing a piano concerto called Crossing of the Crescent Moon, and stumbled across this website, which I got so riveted by. And I remember seeing this collection of moons before me and going, oh my God, these moons need music. These moons need emotion, because I didn't know they existed. I don't come from that background. And I know the power of music, especially being a film composer, and how persuasive music can be to help people engage with the topic, the themes, whatever a director is trying to convey. And I thought, here is my chance to bring their worlds so that more people, through music, so that more people can find out about them and experience them and be as enamored as I was by them. And that's how my story really started.
I just think that's amazing, because most people who are untrained in the world of space and the solar system and what NASA does, you only see what's presented to you either on the news or through a documentary, or, there's a flyby of a particular moon. Like I remember the imagery that was coming back about Titan, one of Saturn's moons, I believe. And you presented with the imagery there, and then you have kind of the artist renderings, and they kind of enhance it so that you can get a better image of what it potentially looks like. But then that's it, and I've always thought it's kind of a very limited thing, and to me, I thought, well, if people are very interested in this, what else can they do other than an artist's visual rendering of something? And the idea of putting music to it and bringing them to life, I just thought that was so unique and so interesting. So with your background in film, I'm just wondering, because a lot of that is, there's a lot of fictional things in the world of film. Anything historical based is going to be based on what we have here on Earth in terms of history and pictures and, documented things. When it comes to describing the planets in music, I mean, how do you do that? How does a place you haven't seen or seen a lot of imagery, speak to you?
Well, a brilliant question. I go to what I know as my process as a film composer, which is what I call my incubation period. And I will not write any note of music until I've fully gathered all the information I need, like reading a script before you're about to set it to music, or reading a book that's about to be converted to a film. And that's my approach. That was my approach with this. So it started off with the aesthetics, really, like looking at these moons and selecting them based on their geological, just the way they looked aesthetically to me, and how I resonated with that. Like Titan's an obvious one there, and Europa with the icy crust. course, the volcanic world of Io. They were
Yeah.
like no-brainers. The beauty of Saturn and its moon Enceladus and what they found through the Cassini mission is absolutely breathtaking. So, I mean, we can get into that later, but so I was spoiled for choice because of the latest missions, like the Voyager missions, the Cassini mission, now the Europa Clipper mission going back to Europa. So that was initially how the inspiration guided my craft. And that's what led me to then start doing further research. And I stumbled across a whole bunch of science and was riveted by what I was seeing. But there was inconsistencies showing up as well. And I'm like, oh, gosh, you know, the internet's a great place, but there's some mismatch in what I'm being fed information. I'm a teacher at heart. I like things to be, you know, anchored in accuracy. And so I turned to my husband one day and I'm like, I need to speak to a moon specialist or someone who can help me, you know, figure out what is the truth here, what's the information that I need to be following here. And I came across a particular character, I like to call it, and I researched who he was. He was dressed in an Eskimo gear talking about Moon Europa, which I decided to craft music for. And I found out he was from NASA. And I'm like, I'm just going to email him and see if he'd be willing to talk to me on a Skype and you know, sort of sort out some of the characteristics of Europa. And he was at NASA, and it was one of those black hole emails that you're never sure they're going to, you know,
Yes,
respond
I
to.
know those.
So
I
gave
know
it
those.
a very low chance of any correspondence. But 7 days later, he did respond and say that my project sounded super interesting and agreed to talk with me. And so we had a wonderful conversation about the type of rocket that was going back to Europa and the type of instruments of the spacecraft. And so he could really level out more of the information about this world and what I was trying to convey musically. So that's when the science started jumping on board, not just the aesthetics of the worlds. And that's when I started to bring the choir in to sing the science, give it more outreach, more relevance. That's when my plan for the Lunar program was born through the creation of the Moons Symphony. I always knew I would unpack it as this really immersive, multi-sensory opportunity for people to engage with a soundtrack that's going to guide the scientific stories, which just got me so excited just from that perspective. So the journey is still continuing. The symphony might be finished, but the Lunar program is still to be launched.
I just think it's fascinating because when you think of rocket launches and just what it takes to put something into orbit, let alone travel to a distant moon, the math that goes into this, the physics, a lot of things that would put a lot of people to sleep that you would never be able to pass in a college course. I'm not a math person. Physics, I was never really able to connect with it. And so when you see these things, I remember back in the 80s when we had the space shuttle, and I thought that was just one of the coolest things, and I wish they would bring it back. But,
Exactly.
you know, to be able to put music to that, taking this data, this scientific data, putting music to physics, and then putting a choir, you know, finding words that align with that. I just find that super interesting. So bravo to you for being able to do this, because I don't think anyone else is.
I mean, I think the thing about I really enjoyed about this is because I definitely don't come from a fully no scientific background per se, and I was always so curious about it. And so when the science started knocking, you know, tapping me on the shoulder through the process, I literally got so excited. I'm like, here's my chance to bridge these worlds of music and science, that there are so much in common. There is more than you would think, actually, more than most people would think. And I was really enjoying the comparison of the two seemingly different realms and blending them in this, what I call the theatrical platform, to showcase and have science and music sharing center stage, which doesn't often happen. And I think what's been, I guess, really commented on about the Lunar program is it does become a platform for those interested in the sciences and the music to experience it as a gateway to, well, I might want to know more about astrobiology or the chemistry of Titan. And that's what Lunar does. It presents it as a smorgasbord, if you like, the arts. And, you know, we'll talk about STEM. Well, this is STEAM, arts, astronomy, astronauts, adventure, lots of A's in there. And that's what I was really excited about, is just that the ability for anyone, it's a backdoor for anyone to explore these worlds and hopefully ignite some curiosity about some subjects that they hadn't considered before.
Well, I think that's really great because that's something that I want to help promote for you, not only through this show, but maybe through future collaborations. Because what I'm doing here, it's to get people not just interested in travel, but to get people specifically interested in the tropics, in the cultures. You can go to these wonderful resorts, and a lot of people just tend to stay there. And I'm thinking, no, don't just go do the touristy thing. At the end of the day, a beach is a beach is a beach. I do hotel reviews and things that for resorts that aren't at the beach. For example, if you go to Bali and you can go up into the highlands of the rainforest, and they have awesome resorts that are up there, but they're not places that a lot of people would typically think of. Rainforest resorts in Costa Rica, for example, for people to go and experience nature, spark that interest in something else. It's not just a vacation. You can go get a cocktail anywhere.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
is it about Costa Rica? Why did you choose that? And I ask questions in what I write and guests who I have on the show about those things. So for me, this is kind of the same thing. It's to spark an interest in something that you didn't expect, something that's different, somebody that's listening to your music and thinking, you know what? And if they are math inclined or just astronomy inclined or something, I don't know how many people are in that field. To me, it's never enough, especially when there's talk now of, sending people to Mars and beyond and all of this. I think you need a good force of people in this. And if whatever little part I can play to get people interested just in other things. And to me, this is one of those very unique things. It's through music, just to, again, spark that interest in our solar system. There's always new things to learn. We're just on the cusp of this. I don't even know if it's just the tip of the iceberg. I don't even think it's that when it comes to the moons and the planets and things. One day I would love to be able to travel to these places, but
Well,
so
I
I
just,
have.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I
No,
was
no,
just
go
going to
ahead.
say, to your point, it's really interesting hearing you sort of go about it in that way, because now through Lunar, my educational program for the Moon Symphony, the mothership, I like to call it. The mothership is the Moon Symphony, and Lunar is the companion guide, like the Earthling's guide to the Moon Symphony. And how I'm designing each of the modules, each set of the seven moons becomes a module, but the way I'm designing it is through a trek, Tom. So
Oh,
I'm likening, astrotourism, if you like, the hotspots of the outer solar system. And so, for instance, there's a massive volcanic feature on the volcanic world Io, the moon of Jupiter, hundreds of
I've heard of
exploding
that.
volcanoes. And I don't know if you've come across the Loki Patera, which is a very quiescent volcanic feature, and it's the most powerful volcano in the whole entire solar system. But its eruption
Oh,
style is
wow.
very different than the usual, dramatic eruptions that we typically see on Earth. And so one of the treks is devoted purely to that volcanic excursion, if you like. And, I liken it to, imagine, the shores of, you talk about your beach, the shores of the beach that you visit. Well, I'm sort of positioning that excursion on Io as, imagine, we're swapping the bathing suits for space suits, but imagine the lapping shores of this massive caldera called Loki Patera. So I'm constantly looking at your plan of travel and adopting that analogy for the lunar program.
Oh, I think that's really cool. That's cool because when I look at these images that are made available of what potentially these moons look like, just maybe through an authentic photograph that was taken from a flyby, and then what they're pulling together, based on all of their scientific data about what this moon must look like, what the activity must look like. I find that interesting, and again, it's not my background, but I'm sure if I do, a lot of other people do as well. There was even, I want to say, I don't know which moon this was, but one of them, it actually rains diamonds. Have you heard of that? Where it was one of Saturn's moons, I think, where they think when it rains, some things crystallize and it rains diamonds.
I'm pretty sure this is ringing a bell in my very initial research phase.
Yeah.
I remember coming across that, but then Enceladus stole my heart, and I went after Enceladus. So, but let's cross check that with each other after the
Yes.
show.
Oh my gosh. So one question that I was going to ask is why the moons though and not the planets themselves? I know we know a lot more about the planets, but was there something missing with Jupiter or Saturn or even Neptune compared to the moons?
Moons are the new frontier. For instance, NASA's just launched a multi-billion-dollar spacecraft to Europa, which they believe has the hallmarks for potential microbial life underneath its 20-kilometer ice shell.
I've heard
Because
that.
of it's the new Goldilocks zone, Tom. This is what this is all about. And it was your the Voyager mission that you mentioned earlier on that really set a new paradigm shift about where life could be experienced beyond the traditional Goldilocks zone, which is, favored around Earth and the proximity to the sun. Now this new volcanic energy could sustain potential lives on these far-flung worlds in the outer solar system. And that's what the Voyager mission really brought back from its legendary tour of the planets. And so the work has now just been building on from that. These missions are built from what they discovered, and everything is pointing at moons. You look at Enceladus and the erupting geysers on Enceladus that was discovered through the Cassini mission, which is the fourth movement of the Moons Symphony. And the woman who actually, Michelle Dougherty, whose instrument, the magnetometer, found the first hints of these erupting geysers, which took a long time to basically trace. It was like a massive detective story. That could be holding. They didn't even have the sophistication of instruments to detect if there could potentially be life in these geysers because they weren't expecting it. And so there's talks about a mission to go back to Enceladus to investigate the geysers and whether there's microbial life potentially in the zone. So this is what's happened, and we thank Voyager.
That's brilliant. I mean, yeah, and it's just I'm hoping in our lifetime we'll be able to figure out as much as we can to know more than we know now, because I find it super interesting. It does take a while to get to these moons, if I am not mistaken. So, and I know now
Absolutely.
it's Voyager, I think it is, that has now drifted out past Pluto and is the furthest man-made object, I believe, in
It,
space. So
yeah, and
it's
Dr.
still
Linda
transmitting.
Spielker is the lead project scientist. She took over Ed Stone, who was, legendary
Yeah.
Voyager scientist for that. So yes, and I believe next year there's an anniversary for one light day that the Voyager spacecraft will be, from Earth. I believe it's in August next year. And
Oh,
then,
wow.
so there's lots of milestones coming up for that extraordinary legacy mission.
Oh, wow. That would be that's definitely something to follow, and I'll have to make a note of that here because again, when it's outside the realm of the tropics, but again, it's something that's connected to the natural world and there is a date or an event or just something, I make a note about it, promote it on the show if I can, make a note about it somewhere so people who come across it, at least it's another form of awareness, and it just takes that one person to notice something and then that spark could be born and they just decide to run with that and go forward. But I think here with what you've presented about the moons and how they're the new frontier, because it's just something, it seems, that's only in the last 10 years. Has it even been 10 years that we really know as much as we know about the moons? Whereas, I remember as a kid learning about the solar system in school. That was a long time ago. But the moons, you never really heard about. You knew they were there, but you knew nothing about them. So is that something that's only really in the last 10 years? I
I'd
think
say
so.
potentially
Yeah.
10 to the last 2 decades. I mean, when the Galileo spacecraft started orbiting Jupiter, there's a story that I will be sharing in Lunar about Margaret Culverson, whose magnetometer instrument was on board that spacecraft, and it detected this saline ocean underneath Europa, and that's what sparked the Europa Clipper mission that just got launched. These missions take decades in the making, and
Yeah.
there was compelling evidence for them to return to that moon of Jupiter. So, and especially when you're dealing with moons beyond the asteroid belt. I mean, we're beyond Mars here, and deep
Yeah.
space missions. As these scientists say, you have to be so obsessed by them because you're going to be in it for the long game. And,
Yeah.
and that's another parallel with scientists and musicians. I mean, we're both in it for the long game, and, honing our skills and just being patient with how our craft, evolves. And so, yeah, there's really fun
Yeah.
parallels.
I'm curious with that, with the relationship with the scientists and just everybody you need to connect with at NASA or JPL, Jet Propulsion in California, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yes. They're probably not, I'm sure they listen to music as a hobby. There's all forms of music out there. But then here comes Amanda with this concept. And when it's people that you've never met or, you're approaching them, how is it first received and what's it like working with these people?
Well, I've got two little stories to tell there. The first is that going back to that first encounter with Dr. Bob Pappalardo, who was the NASA scientist that I first spoke with on the Skype about Europa, who is the lead scientist for the Europa Clipper mission. And halfway through our conversation, he says to me, Amanda, I think the scientists would be really interested in what you're doing. And I sort of kind of went, really? He said, oh, yes. And then one thing led to another. And then I just given the TED talk a couple months later, and he shared it with Dr. Linda Spilker, who was the lead scientist for the Cassini mission. And she became transfixed on my project and invited me to go and present to the Cassini scientists, one of their last meetings at NASA JPL. As I'd finished writing the movement Titan and Enceladus, which was all part of the Cassini mission flybys. And so she invited me for a 20-minute presentation in the von Karman auditorium to present to the very scientists that had inspired, the scientific stories of those worlds. So it was such a pinch me moment. It was such a milestone in the journey of this, because here I was sharing the inspiration, but without them and their missions, it wouldn't be, it was just this beautiful virtuous circle that was taking place. And, you would be so surprised how many people came up to me after and said, I sing in a choir. I used to play trumpet. I think it's widely underestimated about how the scientists' musical passions have, just been sort of, I don't know, maybe I just feel like with my interactions with them, it has been the absolute opposite with my experience and their love of music and theatre.
Yeah, the word overlooked came to mind, that when you come to scientific data and music and any connection that can be made, it's just overlooked. It seems very unlikely. Again, if you're not a musically inclined person or you're not a scientific person, you would just never think of making that connection. Yeah. So I think that you're opening up a whole new world for them too. They're doing their very physics, math, science oriented work. And by bringing in music, which is such a positive emotion based thing, that you're putting life, you're bringing some warmth into it. Because I don't know, maybe it's because I'm not a scientist, but when you're looking at all of this data, it's just very factual. There's no emotion to it. It's not a warm thing or a cold thing. It's just there. And, you've got to do whatever you need to do to get this mission done. But I don't know. I just love the connection that's made there, and how what you're doing is providing something to these scientists and engineers and everybody who's involved, by connecting this with music. I just think that's a wonderful thing you're doing.
I think your word overlooked is really accurate, actually, because the amount of, I had some women that I chatted to during a tea break or something. I presented at the synergistic meeting for Europa Clipper and the JUICE mission, which is the European Space Agency, two spacecrafts in the same planetary system for Europa and Ganymede is pretty riveting. And one of the scientists came up to me and said, thank you so much for sharing and doing what you are doing, because she was involved with the Cassini mission, and of course, disintegrating the spacecraft into Saturn was a highly emotional experience for a lot of these scientists. And so the platform of having music there to allow them for that emotional release in some ways. And she was saying, it was a really struggle for us to say goodbye to our spacecraft. And so you're right, it's just bringing that emotional element into this incredible world of science, and equally science into the credible world of music. I just saw them as such a great marriage, and what a perfect opportunity through the universal language of music and space to unite us as earthlings experiencing the cosmos together.
Oh, definitely. And I think you expressed that perfectly. Here are people who spend years and years and years working on a project, only to see it disintegrate in a planet's atmosphere. Its mission is done. Now it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that has to be sad.
Yeah.
There has to
Yeah.
be, yeah, if you think about that, it's, again, not just a cold and heartless thing. These people are very connected to their work. And yeah, by putting music to it, yeah, there's a form of release, of a form of emotion that otherwise I don't think people would be made. This makes people know about that. If you're putting out a particular piece of music and they know what this is about, I think that helps highlight, you know what? This is people's passion. This is their hard work. And now it's over. It's almost like the death of something that they really, really love. And that does have meaning. That does have value to it. And it's opening my eyes to it. It's just not something you ever think about. It's just a science project that's come to end of life and now they're going to go on to the next thing. But when you look at all the people behind it, yeah, bringing the music and just ways for people to express themselves through that, I think it's just a brilliant thing. And again, overlooked, but
Yeah. And
yeah.
a lot of the research was not just scientific research, Tom, and it was watching these scientists talk about their missions and their instruments and their discoveries. The passion, the emotion that was coming through
Yeah.
was I mean, I get goosebumps even just sharing this with you. And that's what I was also injecting into these stories is, that's why it felt like such a like again, this virtuous circle. It wasn't just the data, it was the human experience of them. I
Yeah.
mean, sharing with us their discoveries. And I wanted to capture that emotion just as much as the moon's emotion, the science emotions, the scientists' emotions into the music as well.
Yeah, that really connects with me because when I look at, again, why people go to the tropics, and I've just always had a passion for the tropics, and to this day it's extremely difficult to put into words what it is. I live in Houston. My wife and I will go down to Miami Beach. We just love Miami.
Yeah.
And there's the culture, there's the vibe. We don't speak Spanish, but I could go down there and learn it in a day. But there's just something about being around the coconut palms and just I don't know what it is, and I almost think it's a little bit the same thing. If what I'm doing with my work here, if I had to stop, it would be very, very hard. And if somebody were to ask me why, I would have a hard time describing it because it's just a passion. There's a connection there. And yeah, I kind of see this in the same way that these people are connected with their work. They're connected with space, connected with whatever they might find, and for them, it's a world of surprises. For what I do, it's not. You go to the tropics, it's been discovered, people go. I don't think there's really anything new about it unless it's a place you've never been. But then once you've been, now it's not new. With what these scientists do in investigating these moons, it's just discoveries every day and for years to come and new things to fall in love with and get emotional about. So yeah, I think connecting it with music is just a very, very smart thing to do. It's a very human thing to do. So, and speaking of the music, I wanted to ask you too, when you first approached the musicians, again, I am not an expert on the symphony and just I've seen what goes into it. I see the local choir at my church, which is a fraction of that. But, one of our good friends down the street, she's the church choir, she's the conductor for the little choir at the church. There's a lot that goes into that and the practicing and the hours and all of this. But to bring this science, this whole concept of space and our solar system to musicians, how did you first get people engaged with that? And it doesn't seem like it's an instant match. I mean, was there any kind of a challenge or a struggle to get people to see, hey, yes, you can put music to this?
Well, I think what a fun event to pivot to help sort of answer that in a nice, interesting way was when we had the London Symphony Orchestra record the music, Tom. I was very fortunate where I had astronaut Nicole Stott fly over from Florida to be part of the historic recording, and also a bunch of NASA scientists as well, including Dr. Linda Spilker and volcanologist specialist Ashley Davies. So they all came, and I had them sitting in front of the musicians, and we had Marin Alsop conducting. And before they started playing the Moon's music, I wanted them to get up and speak about some of the characteristics of the world they were about to play, because this was my thing. I really want to merge the worlds of music and science, and I so we pretty much did that for every moon, and the feedback was quite really cool, actually, where they some of the comments that were coming back was they've never had a session where they've had like planetary specialist scientists and astronauts come in and basically, do a quick preamble about this distant world they're about to play, and it was super well received. And of course, these are all highly exceptional speakers that chair these big space science congresses. So they were. So they got up on the podium and spoke to them. But what's been, so I think that was really appreciated. But I wanted that. I thought this is a beautiful chance, and to draw on their wisdom and their deep appreciation for music. So they've been following the Moons Symphony evolution since pretty much day one. As soon as at least the first 3-4 months, I started knitting the team together, the scientific, the core team. And they're part of the Moons Symphony family, as I like to call it. So they were there in Chicago last year for the Moons Symphonic Suite. It's a format of the Moons Symphony. It's not it doesn't have the choir, but it was like half the length, but it was still really well received. And I had a bunch of the planetary scientists on stage presenting to the audiences their work, and it was super well received and riveting for the audience, just hearing these billion-dollar space missions going out to hotspots of our solar system.
Oh my gosh. And so then with that now, with the Moon Symphony being established, these are events people can go and see, or how do people tap into this? Where can they find the Moon Symphony?
Well, we're trying to land a world premiere, but in the meantime, we have been fortunate to have the Moon Symphony is very adaptable, so it does have some various formats that can be presented. So, for instance, Chicago Symphony Orchestra performed the Symphonic Suite last year. So that was half the length of the symphony and without choir, but it had the immersive space imagery that was accompanying it. So it was very, very transportive, and it featured all 7 moons, but just the iconic moments. I'm very happy to report that on May the 1st next year, the Moons Choral Suite will be premiered in Pennsylvania. And so that will be not the full version, but it will be with choir and orchestra, and be sandwiched alongside Star Wars, no other, and Holst the Planets. So we're super excited about that. And then, so we're just hoping to, just help build an audience and traction for a world premiere. Hopefully somewhere in the US.
Well, I was thinking Houston. We have NASA here, and the Space Center. It's about 45 minutes from my house. And the art scene here in Houston. I mean, I think a lot of people, they don't really realize that Houston, I think now has a bigger arts and cultural world than even New York. If you take the Broadway plays out, we're now the Houston Symphony, the Houston Ballet, everything that's here surpasses New York, and I think LA is like we're running neck and neck with them. What about Houston?
Let's sign up, Houston. That sounds amazing.
I don't know anyone here, but if I did, I would say, hey, we got to do this.
Well, I mean, it just seems like a natural fit. I mean, this is the thing. And it's all about just creating that transportive experience, like you were trying to do with your tropical escapes. And
yes,
but I think the big overarching message is really how the 7th moon brings us back to our planet and what we do have here. And that really is, so just my little elevator speech for you, Tom, if you don't mind. The first 6 moons, focuses on the scientific data collected by space probes to tell the scientific stories of these worlds. The 7th movement focuses on the emotional data brought back from the hearts of astronauts after seeing our place from the surface of our moon, and the breathtaking views and the life-changing event. And that's really what we're trying to do with the Moon Symphony, is create this Earthrise for humanity without having to leave Earth's orbit, because the journey for me to discover these 6 distant worlds really gave me an Earthrise, which I won't go into that right now, but it's what connected me to my friend astronaut Nicole Stott. And that's how we came to being in each other's orbit. Sorry about the space pun, but she was very instrumental in establishing the theme and the stories for the seventh movement, which was it's an emotional, highly emotive moment of the exploration.
Well, I think this is going to be very, very good for people to know. And as I mentioned, I'll promote it however I can on my
So
end here.
kind. Thank
Oh,
you.
really? Because I think what you're doing is just amazing. And it's just such a new perspective. It's one of those things that you would say, well, no one's ever thought of doing this.
I have come across that a lot with others have mentioned that. Well,
So,
I was the
and
same when I stumbled across this idea. I started Googling, going, hang on, surely someone has, found this idea and nothing was coming up. So I'm like, here's
yeah,
my
well,
chance.
yeah, that's like my little thing here with the tropics. I'm like, really? Nobody's
Yeah,
doing this? Or
exactly. It's so
so yeah,
cool.
I'm trying to get
I
it off the
love
ground
it.
here. And when it
Yes.
comes to the music, I go after the culturally inspired things. So, like when my wife and I we were in Fiji and at the wonderful resort over there, a little island 5 minutes away is where a little village is, and a lot of those people work at the resort. But the musicians would come over and play, and they have a
Very.
big open air dining room, and it was beautiful. And
Wow.
you just listen to the local Fijian music. It's not something you're going to find here in the U.S. And
Yeah.
so I encourage people seek that out. If you travel, find out who the artists are. Are they on YouTube? Do they have a Facebook page? Try and track them down. And then as you're creating your tropical escape at home, if that's the kind of music you like, bring that in. And when you close your eyes, just transport yourself back to Fiji, rather than listening to the regular mainstream music.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my little connection with music in the tropics is just to
Love
try
it.
to go authentic, find something that's off the beaten path that you heard while you were there. Why not hear that at home?
Beautiful.
So yeah, well, with the Moon Symphony, I think this sounds like something that will definitely grow. I think it will grow in popularity for people who, again, are not really familiar with the symphony or who are not really into the arts a whole lot. They don't go to the ballet, they don't go to the opera. These are things, they're not on my highest list of things to do for my personal interest, but that doesn't mean I won't go do them. I have been to the ballet and it was absolutely amazing. We took our kids to see, I have three boys now, they're all in their 20s. We went and
Wow.
saw the Nutcracker, and the Nutcracker here in
Perfect.
Houston is a huge production.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was just like, oh my God, this is beautiful. It was such an eye
Mm,
opener to go do the symphony or something like that. It's the
mm.
same thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, I want to help open people's eyes to this. It's not just the symphony, it's not just a bunch of traditional classical music. You have to look at the inspiration behind it
Yeah.
because it's not something you're going to find anywhere else. So
Yeah.
so
Beautiful.
with your permission, that's how I'm going to spin it on
Oh,
my
I
end
love
here
it. You're so
from
kind, Tom. I love it.
because it's just new and it's just wonderful. And I also, in the interest of time here, I didn't want to miss this out. I have a little note here about Lunar because it's learning under new artistic regimes. Who is this for? And I know you mentioned it briefly before, but if you could just again kind of touch on what that is so people know, and if it's something of interest, then they would know what it is and how to go after it.
Yeah, so I'm going to be launching the first module, which is the volcanic world of Io, next year.
Okay.
And right now, the audience is really well. It's going to first target homeschoolers because it's a nice it's a nice audience that I feel could really engage with the content. It's an extracurriculum enrichment program, I guess you could say, that really celebrates the multisensory, multidisciplinary aspects of combining music, art, science, poetry to discover scientific stories of the outer solar system. I mean, Star Wars might be sci-fact, science fiction. The
Hmm.
moons is science fact, which I really celebrate, and that's why I wanted
Exactly.
to design the Lunar around this and really, you know, really ignite the curiosity in all of us. We are all, explorers. And what's been interesting is, yeah, it really is designed for a 15 plus age demographic, but I've had a lot of interest from 50, 60, 70-year-olds who want to sign up purely to learn about their worlds and how science and music can integrate. So yeah, we're doing a lot of like market testing right now, and that's but that's where it's all headed, is to roll out this interdisciplinary program where a cinematic soundtrack is basically the guiding force behind all of the space educational space adventures.
Oh, I think you're really tapping into something there because homeschooling here in the US is huge. We homeschooled our children for a
Oh,
number of years.
wow.
We really
Okay.
did. Yes, public education in America, no. And to anybody who's listening out there, no, stay away from it. And, private education, there are some very, very good private schools here. It's very expensive. Not everyone can afford that. But even there, we just saw some different things were just watered down. And here in Houston, there's a huge homeschooling community. There's the homeschool store, which is absolutely amazing. And people are
Wow.
thinking, oh, well, what would we teach our kids in homeschool? There's a million different curriculums over there and subjects and so many things. And then people think, oh, well, you're homeschooling your kids. They're going to be socially inept or, they're not going to be active enough. There's so many things that you can do to keep your children involved in their interests.
Yeah.
And I've always been a big believer of when it comes to your kids, see where their interests lie. And if they're really good at it, grow it.
Yeah. Yeah.
See where they can
Yeah.
just fly with it. And then
Yeah.
if life, as people grow older and interests change and everything, that's okay. But they
Yeah.
might really tap into something that they like. And in your regular schooling environment here in the US, you don't get that. Your teacher, what is it? I read that the timing that a teacher spends with students per subject, I think is no more than 15 minutes in a day out of a 5 or 6 hour day per subject. There's no room for personal growth. There's definitely no room for something like Lunar. I think with that, as you grow it, promoting it here in the US, I think this is an excellent way to bring kids into the sciences, which is desperately needed over here.
Yeah.
And musical inclination, another big thing.
Mm.
Wow, that I hate to use the word, it sounds like a gold mine, but it's an untapped.
Wow.
I don't know how homeschooling is in the rest of the world. I really don't. Over in
Mm.
Europe or other Dubai, I don't know. Here in the US, it's huge, and I think something like this would definitely fit in. Yeah, I would hope that we can do future collaborations again to keep up with the new
Yeah.
discoveries as they happen, your new pieces of work as you're creating them. And
Yes.
then for this with Lunar as it's growing, boy, that's a lot of great topics for some great shows.
So that is so kind of you, Tom. I just I thank we just I'm so pleased that all this just really resonates with you. You've
Yeah, it does.
just tapped into because that's my story. Like expose these students to a wide
Yes.
variety of students and let them and then ask them what did you resonate with? Was it poetry? Was it the science? Was it the cinematic music? Was it the art? And just let them just get curious about their
Exactly.
finding their curiosity and spark. And so I really value and I'm so grateful that you've shared that with me. Thank you.
Oh, sure. Well, because in school you just get the little generic educational thing about the solar system and very, very high level, no in-depth training. And then if somebody is so inclined to go and study the sciences, become an engineer, study astronomy, well, then it's there. And the
Yeah.
US obviously is a wealth of knowledge for that. I mean, with everything we do here with the space program and such. So it is there. But I don't really think that there's a strong enough guiding force, whether it's everything we're talking about here today or something completely different. People, I don't know, homeschooling still kind of has a stigma to it for a lot of people. And I think we got to break through it. And through things like this, I think that's one way to do it. So yes, I will definitely be following what it is you do, and just to say, hey, you got to go check out Amanda here and look at this.
Oh, you're amazing, Tom. Thank you so
So,
much. It's awesome, really. It's
so
yeah.
it's been just wonderful having you on the show today, and just so educational, and hopefully my listeners will think the same thing. So where would you suggest that if people want to find out more about you and everything that you do, where should people go?
I think starting at my website, moonsymphony.com is a really good place. Signing up, for the website expression of interest in the program. I'm going to be holding some webinars about Lunar, so that could be something that they might want to join to learn more about the program. I'll be doing that in the next couple months. So, that's just a good way of connecting with me. I've got a Facebook profile, Instagram, LinkedIn. and getting my team built, my Lunar team built around me to help really build this up for the greatest success. So everyone is going to have an impact. And, I've seen the emotional impact, and now I want to, and I have beta tested this, at the Imperial College of London, and it was overwhelming, the reaction from, I did a live event for Lunar, and the social proof that came back to me was just so riveting. And I'm like, how do I package this so everyone on the planet can start engaging and interacting with the program? And that's why Lunar Online Program is getting born.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I'll definitely have links to how people can contact you in the show notes and just where they can find out more information. And then I'll go ahead and promote it. I kind of have an informal way of doing that through my website, through my blog. And you had also mentioned the music. For listeners, just know that we're going to be inserting a couple samples of the music here. And so you'll send those files to me,
Absolutely,
Amanda?
yes.
Wonderful, because I would love for people to be able to hear those. And just however else I can help promote what it is you're doing. But we'll, definitely, as I said, have links in the show notes here so that people can learn about this. I just love the homeschooling thing. I mean, now my kids are beyond that, but I'm a big fan of homeschooling.
That's incredible. Who would have thought, Tom? The way that we came into each other's profiles and orbits is very compelling to hear where we landed right now.
Well, and I do mention to people too about Podmatch, because there are a lot of people out there that wonder, how do these people get together? And, I'm not affiliated with Podmatch, but as you know, as a Podmatch member, it's okay to talk about them. I think it's a very inexpensive program to join. Yeah. It's a great way for people to connect. If any listeners out there, you have something that you would want to share, there's a wonderful network of podcast hosts that are available. You can be a guest, or if you have a podcast yourself, just check it out. That's how Amanda and I connected. Yeah. And truth be told, when she connected with me, I thought, how am I going to connect this to the tropics? Because, I do get pitches for things that are completely unrelated to what I do. And, there are people out there that just want to sell their product or service, and that's fine, but I can't do that on my show. I try to keep it focused and look for connections, though, that aren't run of the mill, and this is definitely one of those.
Well, it's all about exploration and journey, so I felt that we were really a good match. Yeah.
Yes, you can explore the rainforests of Bali or the moons of Saturn. It's the same thing. It's the natural world.
Yes, I love it.
No resorts on the moons yet. Maybe one day there will be.
Astrotourism down the line.
Oh,
yeah.
Wouldn't that be fun? When you look at what people are going to be able to do 100 years from now, I think it's going to be pretty fun. Yeah. So, well, wonderful. Well, Amanda, I just really thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for letting me know you were there, because, I wouldn't have found you otherwise. And I think this is going to turn out to be a great episode for the listeners. And again, I hope we can stay in touch, and I would love to promote you however we can.
And I love what you're doing, Tom, and how we've managed to intertwine our worlds in this way. And I really look forward to staying in touch. And thank you so much for having me on, and best wishes and continued success with your platform. And I'll certainly be promoting what you're doing as well, for sure.
Oh, thank you so much. Because yes, those scientists and people in the orchestra, they need a vacation too. And the tropics is a beautiful place.
Perfectly said. Well done.
All right. Thanks so much, Amanda.
Thank
you take care.
Thank you so much, Tom. You too.
Sure. All right. Bye-bye.
So that was my conversation with Amanda Falkenberg. Hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I did. She's just so amazing and so nice, and I think what she's doing is just truly interesting. So now I've got those last two clips for you. Again, they're very short, just 90 seconds to 2 minutes long. One is inspired by the moon Miranda, and the other by the moon Europa. Thanks again for joining. Please enjoy. Thanks.